Hello, dear students. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to a new lecture. As you know, we're done with the first semester. So this lecture is the second lecture of this semester, which is the second semester. In this lecture, we're starting with a new theme, which is adolescence. Lesson number 2, peer pressure. Let's look first at the table of contents. We will start by introducing our theme, adolescence. We will introduce it deeply and have a deep conversation in class or a discussion and questions to be asked and answered. We'll do a small activity all about me, which means you, and then we'll be reading the lesson and solving the reading comprehension questions. So as an introduction, I have a couple of videos here. I have some songs which introduce to you our theme. And what I want you to do is that while listening to this song, the one that I'm going to play now, I want you to be really focused on understanding the term adolescence and trying to get an idea of our topic. So this video will be introducing our topic. Now you have various videos here, you could watch them, but what I recommend you to watch mainly later on your own is the very first video, which is a TED Talk. Now, of course, I do not expect you to understand every detail and all the concepts in it because they're really scientific about neuroscience, psychology, and different things, but it's really important, you know? So let's start by watching this video, this song, mainly listening to this song. And as I said, be focused on getting introduced to adolescence as our theme. All right, and here it starts. Into a teenage mode.
Some clothes get done, the blues a face to repair. They attend every party, but it's taking them nowhere. Some think it's funny, say they don't even care, but on the inside, they wish they were there. What have we come to now? We all wanna be like the rest. Can't describe just how, but we're all a beautiful mess. One moment we're broken and then we're fine. He called you back, wait, wasn't he mine? One moment we're broken and then we're fine. Lost in the puzzle of the teenage mind. Some boys make me trouble and think they're all it. Constantly in company of them to the ditch. And some are just there to have a good time, ignoring every bit of drama and each little lie. Yeah, what have we come to now? We all wanna be like the rest. Can't describe just how, but we're all a beautiful mess. One moment we're broken and then we're fine. He called you back when you wasn't even mine. One moment we're broken and then we're fine. Lost in the puzzle of the teenage mind. What have we come to now? Can't describe just how.
All right, so I think that you've got an idea and details on an adolescent life. She's talking about teenagers and the ideas that she presented in her song. She's a teenage, she's trying to also convey a message. So this was an introduction to our theme. Let's watch also this video. Or mainly listen to this song. Also, I want you to focus.
Stressed out, but he's always fine, baby. Ask him, but she can't describe, baby. Felt like it'll all be fixed with age. Hate that you've been saying I'm dramatic. When sure because I just don't want to talk. Well, but think that you might be overreacting. Promise I'm overthinking quite a lot. They say we're crazy and useless, making stupid excuses to go make bad decisions for what? And we're not crazy, romantics, but we still know what our heart is. When it's quiet, it really burns. Oh, we know more than what we tell. Broken always put into words, and we don't cry because we want to. We will assume it's because she's another 16-year-old. High school's been terrifying. She thinks she'll never find someone too good to back when she's in pieces again. Let's not forget about all the ones who go run their mouths just to stay relevant and on this side. Hate that you've been saying I'm dramatic. Sure, because I just don't want to talk. Well, but think that you might be overreacting. Promise I'm overthinking quite a lot.
All right, so also in this video, multiple things were presented that are related to our theme, which is adolescence. All right, so let's start now. I also added this meme, for example, I don't want to be essential anymore, I'm tired. So you could see that person, first of all, he's in his teenage years and he's being emotional. So could you relate to that or not as an adolescent? So as an introduction to our theme, adolescence, what does it stand for? What does this word stand for, adolescence? What do you think it means? And why would a specific time period of a person's life be identified, specified, and differentiated from other periods of our life, like childhood, adolescence, adulthood? And what differences could you spot between your life as a teenager and that of a child and or an adult? Okay, I want you to try to answer these questions. And is there a valid reason or logical explanation for this developmental stage? Discuss, describe, elaborate, and express your ideas. Now, for sure, in class, we'll be discussing these questions in person. So here's an activity that's all about you. I want you to put a piece of paper, a white piece of paper in front of you, and express using either words, phrases, or sentences how you think people's first impression of you would be. So if someone is meeting you for the first time, how do you think their first impression would be? How would they think of you as your personality, how you look, anything about you, all right? And then also as if you're an online student and you're not in class, I want you to reflect on these ideas. So first of all, write whatever will be coming to your mind and then reflect on them and think to yourself, why do you think that person is going to see you that way? Is that the way you see yourself or what? Or maybe that's the way the people around you are seeing you. Depends. Now let's try to make connections. I want you to think of the relation between your brain, your age, and your environment. Also in relation to our theme, adolescence. So, do you think your brain, its structure, its functioning is similar or different to that of a child's brain or of an adult brain? For sure, you would know the answer that it's different, but how different, you have no specific idea. Now, I'll be getting you into this idea a little bit, and then also age. So, of course, our brain changes with age. So, as we're growing up, it has to do with age. Our neurons, the structures of our brain, is changing or are changing. So, brain and age, that's some glance on the connection between them, and then also the environment. So it isn't also only the nature that your brain is changing with age or developing, but also the environment, your personal experiences. So your brain learns from your environment. Your brain grows or develops based on how your environment is enhancing that development or affecting it, right? So we're at a specific age, that age range, which is called adolescence, and your brain functions in a specific way. And there is that frontal part of your brain that's called the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making, logical thinking, reasoning, and all these things, social intelligence. So that part of your brain at this specific age period, it won't be completely developed. And the major part that would be controlling your decisions is the limbic system, mainly the amygdala, which is emotional. So which is based more on the emotions and being, for example, so energetic, and you don't think when you do these actions. So that's a small explanation of your age and what you might be experiencing or going through, being emotional, the way that you interpret things, which is almost all the time opposite to the way your parents understand things, and they try to communicate with you, but mainly the clash between the two generations. And as I said, the age, the brain, the functioning, you wouldn't go in line, right? And then, as we said, the environment. So also your environment would be still affecting that change in your brain and how you will grow later from an adolescent to an adult, because it's not a separate process. They're all connected. They're all shaping your personality. All right. Now, also as part of our discussion, I want you to think, like, do you overreact at some situations, specifically in this time of your life, or mainly not necessarily recently, but a month ago, not necessarily yesterday, you know? And do your parents understand you? Are you difficult to deal with? Do you think you're difficult to deal with? And if so, why is that? And how would you want an adult to see you and treat you? Also, try to answer these questions and then reflect on them. In class, we would be also doing an activity that's, would you rather do this or this? And I want you also to ask yourself this question and try to answer it. How do you express yourself? Because expression is really helpful and important in growing and developing your personality, especially with everything that would be going around in your environment as an adolescent, and everything that you are receiving and thinking of in your mind. So you need to get it out in some way. Some people get it out in drawing, some people get it out in writing, some people in, I don't know, dancing, doing some activity, whatever. So before we start our reading lesson, let's look at these vocabulary words. We will go across the word damned. It means like getting blocked, as if you saw something that shocked you, so you get blocked or damned down. Then confessed, when someone confesses, the person would be admitting the wrongdoing, right? Saying the truth. And then advanced, which means something that's advancing, something that's moving forward in a purposeful way, not it's a purposeful way, or there's a progress. And then indifference, it means the lack of importance, or it's not important for you, unimportant. Encouraging, supporting, understanding, being appreciative, or motivational. Someone who's encouraging, someone who encourages you is someone who supports you, motivates you, teaches you the best, for example, or guides you. And then perilous, it means full of danger or risk. Okay, something that's perilous is something that's full of danger or risk. So let's start with a reading lesson. And first, we will be reading the lead-in question. What is peer pressure? So as I just introduced to you that time span in your life being an adolescent, of course, in your environment, not only there are your parents, but also your friends, and they're also at the same age level almost, and they have the same impulses and this almost also the same brain functioning. So you all get affected with each other. And that's what it's called peer pressure. It's the influence that they exert on you as a group mainly. They encourage you, motivate you as individuals to change your attitude, your values, your behaviors, mainly those ones that your parents would be teaching you. And here where the clash comes, so you need to follow. You don't need mainly, but you get that feeling that you need to follow to conform to the group norms and to fit, or else you would be excluded, right? Of course, that's not true, but that's the way an adolescent would be thinking. And explain this, giving concrete examples of your own experiences. And why is peer pressure most commonly associated with with youth? We already explained this in terms of age, environment, and mainly your brain. And do you think that peer pressure can also have positive effects when people are pressured toward positive behavior? For sure. For example, volunteering for charity or excelling in academics or athletics by your peers. So if you have athlete friends, you would be motivated to be an athlete, or at least do what you like, follow your goal. If they're all maybe students, good students in the class, they really study very well, and that they are goal driven, you would be also affected positively. And if they are friends that show unaccepted behaviors in society, you would be indirectly or directly affected by them. So you really need to understand that, to know with whom to talk, for example. And it's not only about talking, but it's really about getting affected. How much are you getting affected? So what are your main norms and values, and what are those that you're learning? And especially at this age, you're still forming your personality. So you couldn't still say that these are my values, In one way or another, you would be getting affected. That's why you need to know and set your values and reason mainly. You need to reason and think before getting affected. And in that way, you will be building your personality, and you either get affected in a positive way, and then you'll be forming a positive personality with good behaviors and values, or the opposite, right? So I hope that all these details are clear, because it's not the matter of understanding the lesson as an English lesson, but the matter of understanding that topic as a person. Okay, so how does peer pressure influence you personally? And now let's set a purpose for reading. As you read the selection, figure out how peer pressure compels you to do the same things as other people of your age if you want them to like you. And what conclusions or suggestions can you draw out of that? Okay, so let's start with the reading. When 14-year-old Ronnie came home last night smelling of cigarette smoke, his mother, Margaret, was immediately damned, like she was blocked and shocked. She had been worried about him ever since his hanging out with a group of boys with a ringleader named Joey. Now, usually in a gang or in a group, any group, there is that leader, that person who has the most extrinsic personality, and that person who likes to lead the whole group, right? So Ronnie describes Joey, who was a year older, as a real tyrant who forced the other boys into doing his commands. You see the terms commands, with threats that whoever didn't go along with his plans would be out of the group. So you either conform to these commands or you leave the group. After some gentle discussion, Ronnie confessed that Joey had stolen a packet of his father's cigarettes. And please focus on the gentle discussion with his mother, because parenting and the way your parents address this, your communication is really important. He admitted that he had tried to smoke, but he couldn't handle it, admitting that it was wrong and harmful. So he admitted, remember? So confessed, told the truth. Paragraph number 2. Kids aging 13 to 19 experience intense peer pressure. So in this age range, parents are always concerned about their children of that age group because it can sometimes lead to risky behavior. Why risky? Because as I said, at this specific age, your brain isn't fully developed, or not all your brain, but mainly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making and logical reasoning. That's why you might make, that's a fact, you're going mostly to make the incorrect decisions. That's why you need your parental guidance. Now it's your role to understand this, and your parents' role to know how to deal with you as a teenage, to get along and try to have this smooth conversation or communication, not necessarily conversation, right? So let's continue reading. Parents are always concerned about their children of that age group because it can sometimes lead to risky behavior. Learning to fit in is a major social advance that needs to be encouraged, though only with limits. So you try to fit in, you try to be like others, to be with them. But there are also limits, right? You should not exceed the limit on the expense of yourself just to fit in a specific group. Because after some time, all of this will be gone. And they're experiencing the same changes. So you could be more mature or learn to be more mature to avoid getting out of this phase in your life with something that you would regret, some behaviors or some personality traits or values. So this is the confidence to, this is done, when you give your child the confidence to disagree. You should help your kid to feel at ease when facing his peers. Here are some simple ways to handle such situations. The first way is to help your child bounce back from disappointment. When your teenage feels hurt or rejected by others, try to reinforce a sense of belonging when such disappointments occur. When your child feels excluded from a group, he will pretend indifference as if that person does not care, but that person really cares. So you should encourage him to express true feelings. Your child should realize that it's normal to fall in or out of favor with a group and that he can disagree with them without ending relationships. You could be friends with someone who has a different personality and different opinions than yours. That's totally fine. Now, paragraph number 3. The second way is to put confidence in your teenage child. By this, you would be encouraging him and planting the sense of responsibility in him. At that stage, he would be a productive man with high self-esteem. Self-esteem is knowing your capabilities, and that goes along with self-confidence. Then passing successfully through all the above requirements and understanding will be achieved between your child or between your children and members of groups, mainly the friends. They will accept each other even when they disagree, even when there is diversity, differences. That will make it easier for them to say no to peer pressure and perilous behavior, which is risky behavior. Above all, that will help in filling up the gap between you and your children. So you as a parent or you as an adolescent and your parents. Now moving on to the comprehension questions. First of all, I hope that you understood all the points that I was trying to convey to you. Of course, that conversation or that discussion could go further away or furthermore, but because you're online and you're just watching this video. So I won't be, first of all, let me read for you these questions. We will be looking at the answers for parts A and B today, and the other parts would be the homework for you. So the first question is, what's meant by peer pressure as used in the above text? We have explained this, so you would be able to answer this question. Then how does the anecdote, which is the event in paragraph 1, in Ronnie's case, coming back with that, with the smell of smoking cigarette. So how does that anecdote or that event relate to the topic of peer pressure? Reflect, okay? And then in what sense can we consider paragraph 1 as a problem solution and state the problem and the outlet? Then number 4, fill in the web below with at least 5 adjectives that best describe Joey in the above text. Then number 5, what can be inferred from such a description of a leading figure? Explain. So the person who's leading the gang and who's trying to give commands to his peers to follow, right? And negative things. So how would you infer, what would you infer about that person? Then question number 6, what necessary tools are needed to make a teenager fit better with his peers? So you're going to fill also the web below. And then part B, you take the content and the grammatical structure into consideration to complete the following clauses with proper information. Okay, you read them and then you complete them. Now, the answers are here. Okay, so the answers are here. I'm not going to read them, each answer by itself. You could look at them, and especially that I explained all the details in the text. So all the points and the answers should be clear by now. I like to add these 2 quotes. So adolescence is the social conflict. There's a conflict here because society, adults mainly, are trying to deal with you, but they're finding it difficult, and also you're finding that they're not understanding you, and with all these emotions and all this tension. So it's a conflict, a social conflict. Mainly a conflict of balancing between the physical maturity, you're physically becoming more mature, but psychologically you're still irresponsible. And as I said, mentally, on the level of your brain, you're still also not capable of taking such decisions. So there should be a balance, right? And also adolescence can be a time of turmoil and turbulence, of stress and storm. And I know you understand that clearly. Rebellion against authority and against convention is to be expected and tolerated too, for the sake of learning and growing. So you need to accept what you're going through, but you need to deal with it more in a more open way, be more aware of it. think of it. You know, we call this metacognition, thinking about thinking. So think about the way you think and reflect for you to go through that stage safely, as I can say, and to not learn the unwanted behaviors and values. So by now, our lecture comes to an end. I hope that everything was clear. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send me an email at my Gmail and mohsen.highschool@gmail.com. This is your teacher, Ms. Maha Mohsen. You could follow me at Learn with Maha, and we're at the International School of Innovation.